Today, we sit down with Matthew Liggins. Matt has been an artist, architectural designer, an all-round force of creativity and positive energy for many decades now. Matt is quite experimental and unique and courageous in his approach to his career. Today, we sit down and begin to draw on the strings of what makes a creative practice truly authentic, or what makes the way you show up in the world truly authentic, and some of the ways in which he's done so over the many years of his practice. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. I've known Matt for a few years now, and I hope that familiarity helps us delve deeper into these topics and truly find the frequency of what this conversation wanted to be. Matt Liggins, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Matt, you've had a pretty busy day all day today, speaking at many events and classes and giving speeches. Talk me through how you're feeling now and how do you do it? How do you keep the energy up?
Good question. I was speaking to someone about it before, but I actually lock in whatever I'm doing on this day and I don't try to bring in other things. So yeah, I did a talk this morning for, what was that for? What was my 9 o'clock talk? It was for first year. So me and Mike Davis ran this workshop. So I just concentrated on that and brought in things, but it was fun, this workshop. And then I just did a talk for Janaea about my art career, so performing and my art stuff and stuff like that. So I just enjoy it. I try to be relaxed. I try to make it fun. I don't write notes. I just ad lib it and had my website there and TEDx talk and my pyramid schema talk. So yeah, I talk to my work. So once you create these work, it's easy to talk to, and it's me. So I like talking about myself. So, but yeah, creativity. Like I've always been creative, and I think from a young age. Yeah. So my mum said when I was young, the first time they knew something was up, a psychologist contacted my parents and said, at kindy, they came into kindy and said, just to let you know, Matt saw a lot in this drawing, more than normal. So yeah, so visual and memory and naming stuff from a young age. Another thing is when I was a kid, at Tokomaru School, they had we have like a show, like a calf club show. So we always had a pet calf. But then they have this thing where you make, you might have seen like little sculptures of like minarets of gardens in a cake tin. So I made one of those. I made this sculpture of this Mexican man out of clay. Yeah. And then they turned up and I won first prize and everything. So just, it's just been like, my life.
It's always been a part of you. And looking at the way your career has evolved from a third person's perspective, it's been this very experimental journey of sort of getting closer to who you are and tapping into that frequency a bit more. Can you talk about how your relationship with creativity has changed or evolved from that childish joy and delight through to a more professional practice, and then now approaching a different place? What's that been like?
Yeah, so I think at uni you just take risks and you make stuff, right? And you don't know what you're doing and you form your practice, right? Then you go work for someone. So I worked for Dennis Poker Architects in Tauranga. Then I worked for the Trust, Girls' Day School Trust in London, and did sort of brick and stonework. Then I worked for Renata Tory Architects in Sydney and did concrete, you know what I mean? So I think I learned timber in New Zealand, brick over in London, and then I used concrete like Scarpery, like Renato. And so, and then I thought to myself, shit man, what am I gonna do with my career? Because I was burnt out, I was exhausted, I had RSI. So then I started my own firm in Sydney and just took a gamble, did my mate's Lee's house in Linton, and did that for 3 or 4 years in Sydney, but I've been away for 11 years. I was like, what am I gonna do? I wanted to come back and teach. So teaching is that sort of vehicle that kind of unlocked all my issues. One was I didn't have to spend time doing 40 hours of CAD, RSI. I was sick of the screen, and I'd be, moving my body, drawing and talking to students. So that was great. And it gave me opportunity to do other things. So, I could teach, get paid X amount of money, not have to advertise to get houses, just let them come in when they come in, and do my art projects on the side. So teaching was that one thing that kick-started my art career. And it's just developed over time, like, and I reckon I'm still the creative person I always was, but I reckon I've just got better tools to do it, mainly through drawing and iterating ideas. So I've got a great way of working now that's quick, that works for me.
Yep, that conversation about like getting the right skills and the tools hits very true. I think through the process of at least me being through first, second, and third year, like through each stage of those years, it felt like I was getting closer to the fluency and being able to produce what I was picturing in my head. And oftentimes in those early stages, it's very frustrating knowing that you're thinking of something greater, but you just don't have the skills to either be able to articulate them or draw them or convince them. That's kind of what this degree is about, what architecture is about, is convincing and designing a manual. In a way, it's a sales pitch in one sort of way in every dimension. And approaching that verbal fluency or that drawing fluency or the way you show up in the world and your practice and the way you're perceived is, I think it's a journey of evolution that will only be developed with time, iteration, and effort. And I'd love to know about that specifically within your practice. So what did your days look like when it was those 11, 12 years of sort of intense CAD work? The sort of 9 to 5, what were your days like? And then what's it different from today?
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong. Like, I loved it, but I was exhausted. So, but you have to learn your craft, right? So you learn X amount at uni, then you work for practice, then you learn about real world stuff, resource consent, building consents, and, I used to know NZ 3604 like the back of my thumb. I used to know the jib manual for doing bracing, for things. But yeah, I think you got to learn your craft, right? You got to learn your skills, and there's no shortcuts. You want to just get there quick, but you can't. So it just takes time to build up the space knowledge. That's why most people wanting a grad will say, I want 5 years experience. So they've been in the industry, they know what they're doing, so they can get straight on and do stuff. So it just takes time to progress through everything. But working for people, right? So working for Dennis Pocock, I got to work on some great projects in Tauranga, Bayline bus stuff and houses, and that was good. Working for the Trust, I got to work on different schools all around the UK, So I learned how to project manage jobs there from a great architect called John Gray. So he taught me how to run a job, how to hang out and talk to consultants and he taught me so much about being an architect. Then I was like, okay, London's good, Europe's good, but I miss being down here, and the winters there were so hard. So moving to Sydney, I got to surf again all the time. I got sun. I know you like surfing, so it's like it was important to me to have that well-being. But yeah, I needed to learn about high-end res. I needed to do beautiful houses. I wanted to know how to detail all this stuff. And my mate Lee goes, check out this house down in Coogee, South Coogee. And I was like, okay, can I look? Went down there, I was like, oh my God, look at this thing. I've never seen anything like it before, And it was Renato's first house in South Coogee, and it was just blew my mind. So I applied for a job, got it. I was at Renato's for 4 years, man, learning how to do high-end res. I should have got registered there, but I didn't. But I should have just got registered, call myself an architect, but basically I am like an architect, do the same stuff, but without the name. But and then I was like, man, under Renato's lead, he's the designer, right? And I design bits, but he's the lead designer, right? When the contract comes in, he designs the house, I draw it up, right? For 2 years during the GFC, it was just me and him. And his wife's, so he can't do CAD, but he can draw. So I was just a CAD monkey. And I got smashed, man. It was so hard, running jobs, stressful, but I loved it and I learned a lot. And then I got to this point one day, I drew up this link house and got it built. And then he goes, now you're an architect. I was like, yeah. That was enough for me to say, hey, yeah, now you're an architect. Yeah. And then I did my mate's Lee's house, 2011, and left there because did my own thing, and then stayed in Sydney, did some work there for another 2-3 years, and then came back and taught. And that was 10 years ago, and teaching's just been the best thing to counteract doing CAD. 1 or 2 days doing CAD is enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it took me ages to work that out, man. I was 37. And I'd done, my own few houses, and then I wanted to come back and teach and reconnect with students like you, and and balance out practice in CAD.
Yeah, that idea. Just a picture of Renato graduating, you almost sounds like being knighted by the Queen. It's this person that you admire and that whose tutelage you've been under for so long, and then sort of getting in a way their stamp of approval.
That's it, man. So Renato was amazing, man, because he was so different to everyone else I'd met. So Renato worked for Harry Seidler. Okay, so he learned under Harry, who was learned under Walter Gropius, Bauhaus. So great.
2 people removed.
Yeah, 2 people removed, man. And Renato's got lots of funny stories. He told me on his first day there, he drove up in his little Bambina and parked in Harry's car park, and went off at him and all this shit, and told me and showed me all the drawings he did, and just beautiful hand drawn, Seidler houses, and just amazing. And we used to sit and chat and talk about what we like, and he was always a frustrated architect that wanted to be an artist. And we had a famous painter, Michael Johnson, who moved in next door to our office, and he was painting and smoking and just no cares in the world, and he was actually Brett Whiteley's best mate. So I remember being there. That was one moment when I said to myself, fuck, I've got to follow my art dream too. So I got really good friends with Michael Johnson, used to get him ciggies and stuff like that. Then I designed his kitchen and designed his studio. And that was a massive change of my career, meeting this artist. So that kind of kick-started my art career.
And you were 37 about this time?
Yeah. So I left at 37. I would have been about 35.
Yep.
So long time from graduating at 25, 10 years, and then now I'm 48, man. 48, it's like 50, dude. Got look at my grey hairs and shit.
48 years young, of course.
Fuck, I'd like to think so, but I'm not. Sometimes I'm just feel like I'm done. Hey,
don't say that, because I feel like I'm done at some point.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Dude, 21, man. I had so much energy at your age, man. It was electric at the school.
Yeah.
We had amazing tutors here, Pat Hanley, Kiri Morrow.
Yeah. Well, I spoke to Bill a week and a half ago, and he talked about sort of the energy in those days, and Bill would be the generation before you as well. Oh, yeah. And during his time, it was 3 studios, so brick, tile, brick, stone and steel.
Yes.
Brick, wood and steel.
Yes.
And he was part of Brick, which was the most experimental studio of them all, and then you sort of had this gradient of going to more conservative times. And it was almost like students and their cults within studio and the different ways of interpreting design projects, which is far removed from, I think, the effect that COVID has had on us gathering today. My year group was, I think, the last year group to feel the effects of COVID in first year. So we had the first half of semester out, and then we were back into studio, and it was beautiful seeing that pulse. But you can't help but notice that the first years today have a lot more energy, which is beautiful. It's beautiful that it's coming back.
Yes.
And what are the ways to inject that back into the groups that may have lost out on it? And it's like, how do we get that back? Maybe things like this are the way to go about it.
Yeah, the talking is a lost art with your generation, right? Yeah. So long conversations, knowing what to say, knowing how to hold a conversation and make it interesting. So when I grew up, there was no internet. There was no mobile phones. You ring the landline and all that. Yeah. So if you guys can disconnect with your phones and that, less phones, less social media, and enjoy people and what they offer, and don't judge, and learn from each other, and pick up the energy that people have. Energy is contagious, right? If you've been to talks before and someone just reads out these notes, someone's just ad-libbing, hey. So so energy is so important. I was saying before, Pip Cheshire was saying back in his day at school, it was people with the best chat, the conversation with the best architects. And in my day, it was the big, beautiful projects. I don't know, who's the best ones now, the visionaries, or who's looking at the future. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the successful architects or the successful artists even are usually the ones who tell the story the best, or are able to convince the best, and are the best salespeople in whatever medium their pitches are. So I guess it gets back to that point of talking is how do you relate to people, and how do you talk to them, and I guess mimic their frequency and have that jive going on.
I just love people, man, and what they have to say and think, because everyone's different, right? And I hope that I'm getting better and better at listening, because I can talk, but the best people are better listeners.
Yes.
And slowing down and letting people exactly open up. And yeah, I think talking is a huge part of my practice. It's led to all the projects I've done. So organic projects from meeting people and the connections they have. Like, I don't force things like I used to and get disappointed if things don't work out. Yeah. Like, so I've become more comfortable at all that sort of stuff and where I end up. Like, I think it's important to just relax and don't think that everything's hinging on this one thing. You know, like, oh my God, I didn't win this, I didn't get that. I'm going to stay at home and lie in bed and you know, watch Netflix or whatever. So yeah, I think just being more carefree and don't be so worried about certain things so much. But that comes with age. Like, it's easy to say at 48, but you know, you guys are younger. You guys are still learning about yourself and all that, and so like a lot of things come with age. Yeah.
Talk to me about those 2 years between ages 35 and 37 when you're going from this transitionary period between professional practice through to realizing what you want to do on your own and follow that route. What was your state of mind? It must have been an incredibly risky move to make.
So I think just going back, when I said to Renato, when I've been there for 4 years, to say, hey, look, I'm done, and I wanted to have an art show and get away from it. I think that moment of saying, hey, I'm done, I'm resigning, and I had Lee's House and another project on the go, and it was liberating. It was like, oh my God, end of an era, da-da-da. But the thing is, I knew there was a new start, and that was exciting for me. And then I think leaving Sydney and deciding to come back here was like, I had no idea what it's going to be like. Hey, Sarah Trevor was still teaching here, and you know, a few other people, and a lot were leaving too. So yeah, it was a bit of, but I like change if I know it's really in my heart. I need to do it, and I try to follow my heart and not just my head in that. So somewhere in between, but yeah, but it's ended up where I am, and I do know there's another chapter after this, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I know I need to go back somewhere again and then come back. But yeah, I just got to listen to myself.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about the specifics of those days when you were making that transition and focusing on the practical realities from your head, but also your intentions for the future with your heart. What was your situation like specifically? So you had a project in the go, or was it 2 projects in the go at that time?
Yeah.
And a job, a full-time job. So how were you?
Yeah, so like I had the full-time job, and then my mate Lee goes to me, hey, I'm gonna buy a house back in New Zealand. So he was my flatmate in Sydney, and he was like, hey, I want to move back to New Zealand, and I'm looking for land. And we went back and saw this property just out of Palmy, and he's like, let's do that. And I did that, and then it was liberating doing your first project, man. Like, because after all those years of doing other people's houses, it felt so good. It was amazing, man. So that was an amazing first step. My first house, 2011, Linton Residence. And then, just working on other ones in Sydney were great. But then I was just like, man, this is good, but it's not completely fulfilling for me. Like, I didn't want to just take any job. I was getting RSI in my wrist, so I just didn't want to take any job and that. So that decision to come back and teach, man, it just paid dividends. Like, I started off just teaching one design paper, 2 hours a week, man, or whatever, 4 hours a week, or whatever it was. And it just grew, and it grew and grew until I'm on 0.5 PTF, and now it's just been the perfect sort of balancing stone for me, you know, in between art and architecture. So, yeah.
Talk to me about that balance. What does it look like from a weekly perspective for you?
Yeah, so weekly changes. That's the beauty about it, man. Yeah. So teaching. I put all my teaching on my 2 design days, you know what I mean? At the moment I'm doing 81, so it's every Tuesday, Friday, okay? And so I teach in the afternoons, and I do my thesis supervision in the morning. So that blocked out.
And podcast today afternoon.
That's a Monday.
Yeah.
That's a Monday. So normally on a Monday I'll just be at home doing architectural art. So so today is just a day in to present and talk about my work. It's all lined up on one day, which is quite weird. It's just how it goes. But normally I'd just be at home. I've got to examine some theses, do that. Or I'm working on an art project like this bench seat at the moment, or this Wanganui project. But I think I've said to a few students that I don't want to do half a day of this, half a day of that. It stuffs my head up. So I try to do a full day of one thing, go to sleep, wake up and do a full day of another thing. I said it to Isla Turner. I said, Isla, she was getting a bit overwhelmed, and I said, block it out and just do that. block it out and just do that. And it really helped with my focus and my well-being.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of theory behind periodization of things, right? It's like, I think humans are very much absolute creatures. Like, saying to someone, you can only have 2 Oreos from this packet is difficult. You either have none or you have all of it, right? And maybe there's a trend that you can draw to work as well as, you have to focus and get this work done. And it's like Parkinson's law, work expands or contracts to fill the time you allow for it.
Yeah.
And if you've just got that one thing, you're not attributing mental effort often to like the plain organization of things. Yeah,
that's a cool point. We just did that show Dark Light with Angus Muir in Brad's Warehouse. Angus invited me to do this mirror room, right? So we designed whatever happens in this mirror room, and then we fabricated it, and then we installed it on site. And I just remember popping in when I was free to help them install and do little bits and whatnot. But, they had all this time to do the show, and I just remember them just finishing the show like right before like it opened. And so that idea that if you get X amount of time, and students do it too, before a project, they might be just thinking about things and they're just working it right to that last minute when you have to hand it in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's time is a luxury. Sometimes I think as you get older, you get quicker at coming to answers. You got the tool to, that's the problem, but I'm going to sketch it out in a plan detail and work it out real quick. And not being precious about it, using drawing as thinking and getting it straight onto paper. I think, so you learn as you get older how to resolve issues quicker. And that's the beauty about being in your 40s as an architect. You know what's going to work and won't work. You know what's too expensive. You know quicker ways to do things, or who to involve or who not to involve.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Are you getting at just the fluency of skill, or is it also you see things more clearly?
Both.
In terms of
both.
Right.
Yeah, things more clearly. Yeah, clarity is an important thing too. That's a good segue to say, like, I don't really dwell on things that aren't going to help, that take me out of my enlightened headspace or open-mindedness. So if I come to teach design or thesis and I'm worried about tax or I'm worried about bills, it's going to affect me. Or if I'm worried about other things. So if I can come into studio clear and I'm there for the student, I'm present, I've got all my energy, and I just go through them all and then leave and go home, that's my job done for the day. Yeah, so I think it's really important to have that open headspace and stay in there. Don't get distracted by tax. Don't get distracted by world politics. So yeah, that's kind of what I try to stay in my little bubble.
Yeah.
For clarity.
And you've talked about that bubble being, at least in your personal creative works, being a space of quiet where you like to iterate and develop projects. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah,
what does that look like?
I have to work by myself.
Yeah.
So like, I live at home with my partner and my baby. They go to work and daycare. I'm there. When I'm not teaching, I'm by myself. Teach 2 days this semester, 3 days next semester. I'm by myself for 3 days. So I just sit quietly at home.
Yeah.
Have my sketchbook, A4 sketchbook. 2B,
Stedler.
0.7, Stedler, coffee, music, and then I go. So I have a sort of like a ritual, a process that I work in, and I collaborate with a lot of people, but not at home. It's just me.
It sounds very meditative in a way. That
it is.
Is it almost something that you look forward to?
Yeah.
On those busy teaching days, which you kind of intersperse between these days.
It's the opposite of being here.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of being around 100 people. The opposite. But I love that. I have to have both. I couldn't do 5 days around students and I couldn't do 5 days by myself. It's the perfect balance. You're always searching for that perfect balance.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And with that balance, you talked about working with other people and collaboration. So in your career, when you first started out alone, those are projects that you largely did by yourself, and then I'm going to guess had signed off by people who were able to do that legally.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when I did my first house, 2011, you didn't have to be a registered architect to do building consent. So leaky homes was just coming in and the restrictions to it. Yeah. So they gave me actually like 2 or 3 months to answer all my RFIs before that came in. So I did my first house, it didn't need to be registered. Okay, but then I found Tim Zoe. He's my drafty, and he does all my building consents now. So yeah, so that's how I work around the system. He's LBP and signed off for all my building consents. So I love using the same people because we have a great relationship. So yeah, Tim Zoe drafting, Cass Goodwin engineer, Sam Gifford planner. Hey.
And that's your team?
Yep, Palmy, Tim, Cass, as you know, working with you in Christchurch, and Sam Gifford, Wellington. That's my team.
Yeah, beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And when did that collaboration branch out into the more creative elements of things? So going from that to some of your works with Angus Muir, for example, today. What was that transition like?
Oh, the Angus connection was amazing and organic. So I actually met Angus. My mate Joe Michaels, who's a great artist, and he said, "Do you want to come to this party?" And went to this warehouse party in Kingsland, and it was a great night. And I sort of met heaps of people and met Angus there, and it was cool. And then my thesis student, James Russell, this is back in 2016, I think, designed this light installation thing. And he did some work with Angus there and got to meet Angus and that. And then the next year I did the plastic bag house at Angus's because I need to build it somewhere. Then Angus did all the lighting and we built it there, got on, did the Vitruvian tunnel, the Euclidean tower, colour theory. Yeah, all just with Angus because he's like-minded, he's a doer. He's kind of raw punk, he's a Viking. So yeah, just worked really well. He's a great builder. I'm not that good a builder. I can draw and design, but he's really good at knowing how to build things, quick and fast and cheap. So yeah, just a great collab, and we get on. We have great WhatsApp chats, back and forth, do this, don't do that, you do this, don't do that, oh, that's a bit out there, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like back and forth, proper collab, like on projects like Christmas Pavilion and Colour Theory and Dark Light. So yeah, it's awesome to work with someone who's a really good builder and knows all this techie electrical stuff because I don't know nothing about it.
What's beautiful about your projects and collaborations is that technically they're so complex for an installation, but then when you experience them, they're so incredibly simple.
Yeah.
So with the Vitruvian Man Tunnel, it's a very simple idea. You get it almost immediately. Yeah. And so with the Christmas Pavilion, which is a project that I've seen and experienced very extensively. And what's that process like, bringing all of this complexity down into a simple image, or I guess a simple experience?
Yes.
I know you start off with, on your Instagram, from what I've seen over the years, you start off with like a very simple sketch, so explaining either what the idea is or the argument or something in a very basic symbol. And then looking at your Instagram profile over the next coming months, it just gets more and more complex. And complex
the stories, they grow.
Yeah,
but that's how I do each project. They start off with a sketch, and then they might not even become a project, but if they do, they get pulled out and put in a pile. That becomes a project, and they develop over time, slow cooked, right? And they develop their complexity. But I'm always trying to think of what's the easiest and simplest way to make it and experience it too. So your design is not about an additive thing, it's subtractive, right? So getting that perfect design is like you can't add or subtract anything more, that's it. So getting to that point, and then you know it's done. That's what I always sort of search for installation and houses too, in buildings. And Summerhill with Leith was amazing. That developed into a really cool project from, and working with Leith and her learning about the industry. Now she's at Cheshire, so it's so amazing enabling all these students to come through and teaching them what I know and inspiring them. It's all just beautiful and fun.
Yeah, talk to me about the lessons that you've learned about relationships, especially within a country like New Zealand.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier when we went to go grab coffees that, and you said this, that New Zealand or Auckland is the right size where you're one person removed from knowing everyone. Yeah. And it's not too much where you kind of have to skedaddle around, but it's just enough where your reputation really matters.
Yeah, man.
It carries you through. And
you can't so bigger cities you can get lost and you can be an arsehole and... but here, man, your name is everything, right? And it's the right size. It's got a community. It's not too big. So, keeping relationships and being real and honest and learning about things as you go. And Leith pulls me up on heaps of shit. Janelle pulls me up on heaps of shit. And Billy does. So I'm always learning and, because I can get carried away and get a bit crazy on things. Just trying to, enjoy people for who they are, accept for who they are. No one's perfect. All that stuff, I love the community here, man. Not just architecture community, but art community and teaching. they're all kind of crossing over now like this, which is really cool to see the crossover of projects that come through.
Yeah. How is that informed some of your work? So your teaching and your art.
Yeah.
How does that pull through? And
Yeah, so like the live projects, bringing live projects, like luckily through Mike and Unit Y, bringing the summer hall projects into the school and the built projects with Andrew Barry, the structures and getting those done, and the community building. Students learn so much when it's like, and they're inspired if it's going to be built, and they learn so much from building stuff. And that for me has probably been the most fun thing, is bringing these live projects into studios. So like Timbertech next semester, we're doing a bench seat for Parerura, the still company, doing a live bench seat, live project, so timber bench seat. They're going to come in and crit the students. And so, you know, it's just been great bringing industry, Summerhill in, Kuiper Sculpture Gardens. Hopefully we'll be doing some work with Riverhaven Artland and Cleverden with building these Andy Goldsworthy things. So just meeting people and then just saying, hey, who's keen to do this? Doing a really cool thing coming up with Richard Redaway, Kate Lindsay and 10 students. We're building this cardboard installation in Devonport, which I'll invite you to. So there's so many cool, fun things that are happening and tying people together and collabing, and yeah, it just brings, to bring everything together and open students' minds about the real world and how it works, and, you know, to learn from other people is really amazing.
why is that important to you to keep doing these live projects?
Because paper ones end up under here, right? And the model ends up there. Like these have these go back into the real world and then they come back again. So these, but I do House for an Artist and things like that, and that's fun, and but it doesn't lead anywhere.
The House for an Artist is a very interesting thing. So over the course of the last, has it been a year or so, you've been working on an actual House for an Artist, which is separate to the paper that you've been teaching.
Yeah, that was weird, eh? Yeah.
Talk to me about that sort of, the paper that you've been working on with dozens of students for years, translating into a project of your own. How has that informed you?
Yeah, so like the House for an Artist paper came when I first started. I did it 10 years ago. I've done it 5 or 6 times, and it slowly evolved. And you know, people say you get better at teaching a paper when you've done it 4 times, right? So it's evolved, and it's to educate students here about the relationship of art and architecture, sculpture, and making, and learning about that. So, and then I'm doing this project for Greg Tataho, this steel sculptor, and his wife Kathy, who's a glass artist. So yeah, it's coming back around. So, but this is a sort of adaptive reuse of this brick building in Wanganui for a residence and an art studio out the back. So yeah, it's just full circle, and it's weird how you put things out into the world and they come back, 8 years later.
Yeah. Talk to me about that relationship. So you're in the, if you don't mind me asking, you're in the building consent phase of it.
Yes.
And what's the experience been like so far working with 2 artists?
Yeah.
You being an artist yourself.
Yes.
Are there just so many ideas around that nobody knows what's the best thing to chase?
So this project's been through 2 different architects, or one, and given to me. So they had a strong brief when I got it and a design that they didn't like, and then I just changed it and simplified things. But we are putting this massive sort of cantilevered steel deck out the back of this building, and he's a steel artist, but he hasn't really overtaken the design and that. But yeah, he does amazing steel work. But yeah, Kathy's just been, it's more architecture, you know what I mean? Yeah. But if we do, because it's adaptive reuse, but if we do this studio out the back, it was sort of, concrete and brutalist kind of thing. And that's what Greg liked and that. But yeah, I think it's super interesting when you see architects collab with artists and what they can come up with, and what the architect learns from the artist, and vice versa, what the artist learns back from the architecture, and the crossover in disciplines and ways they use materials and do things.
What are some of those things that you've learned?
From Greg and things like that? His eye for detail. Holy shit, man. Yeah. So he really cares about how things go together because he makes steel sculptures and things like that. But, you know, we haven't really... So we've done building consent and things like that. But when we get into, like, the interior design of, say, starting off with these 2 bedrooms and this bathroom, how to bring things together in detail. So as you know, you bring the developed design and joinery drawings and things like that in later, and it's that beautiful level of how things go together. And that's the exciting stage that we can do. Like how much of a steel influence will come into these other parts. I know with his kitchen, we were talking about doing it all in steel, in stainless steel. And so anyway, super interesting collab there. So we'll see. It's still, you know, he wants to get it all done by Christmas. So we'll see.
It's going to be a huge push then.
Nah, like he's only going to do it bit by bit.
Yep.
Bit by bit. So like, you know, he's going to move in there, live in there, then he's going to do the earthquake strengthening and do bit by bit, then the kitchen like later on. So he just wants to get in there.
Yeah. It sounds like you're very much trying to balance the poetic and the practical, but maybe in a way that the same thing, the way you bring about the practical elements of the building is through poetic lens, is through working with this artist who is also like building and constructing parts of the project, and it's a much more involved project for an architect, unlike a lot of other residential projects are.
Yeah, so I guess, yes, that's interesting. So like he's actually mowed the back of the section where we're going to put the studio, and he's actually got his sculpture sitting there as a sculpture garden. And his front room, he had these sculptures sitting in there when we did a site visit. So like the integration of his sculptures and this house are going to be super interesting, where we can say, hey, what do you want to put there? Do you want something to stay there forever? Does it need a niche? Does it sit inside that, or does it sit on a cantilevered steel sill? You know what I mean? So like that's the interesting dialogue we'll have as we get into more detail that I'm really longing for, because it's been sort of building consent stuff and you know, thermal and all that and structural. But when we get into the detail, and the more poetics will come through on all these interior elevations and specifying fittings and where the sculptures go. So yeah, super. It's going to get way more fun. And I will just sketch some ideas and then show them and draw them up and then iterate, but be through sketching.
Yeah. Do you think creativity always flows through you, or is it something that you tap into, make arise on purpose, or is it something that comes?
I've always had it, and I've got better at staying in that zone. Yeah.
How?
So I just stick to myself a lot. Like, you know, I'm an extrovert and I love people, but I get exhausted, but then I have my time at home. Yeah, and I don't dwell on things that that affect my creativity at all. I don't like stress.
Yeah.
I don't like tax stuff. I've got Henry now to pay all my taxes straight away. I don't look at my bank a lot. Like, Janelle will hate this, like, you know, because I've got a kid now. But, like, yeah, I try to stay in that zone, and hopefully later on I can make a bit more money. But at the moment, yeah, I put a lot into my projects and time and energy. You know.
You sense this with a lot of very creative people. A lot of comedians or actors or musicians will also say, I just don't even want to think about money. I've got a money guy. If I want to buy a watch or a car, I'll call him up and say, hey, can I afford this? If not, it doesn't even, all I need to be able to do is afford a good expensive coffee or not look at the
Coffee's
dinner bill.
Important, shit, yeah. I don't even have a watch. Since mobile phones come out, I ditch watches. So like I try to keep it simple. One, like my van, like my Nike Air Maxes, you know, like comfortable. It's like second skin, don't think twice. Like Mark Zuckerberg wears the same clothes. Like I often wear black, and I try to keep things simple in my life so I can spend my time on developing stuff. You're sort of removing the clouds, whatever sort of thinking is unnecessary to zero in on that issue a bit more. And it sounds very much like a flow state. Yep, it definitely is.
Yeah, so is what you mentioned earlier with the coffee and the music and the setup of the room and being alone, I'm guessing all of those are quite key. Is it like something very particular that you set up? Yeah. What's the state of mind?
It has to be clear. Like I had OCD as a kid, it was so bad. Yeah. But my desk is empty. I've got my lamps, I've got my book. So yeah, I strip it back to the basics, man. That's super key. I used to listen to Democracy Now! Every morning and take enjoyable ideas of politics and ways to solve things and try to tackle big problems and whatever, you know. And then I listened to music. I used to crank Faith No More and just fuck it, that would get me going, man, and I'd just smash it. And then I'd have so much energy. Nirvana, I was a big Nirvana fan. So yeah, music is important to me. Like, you know, I love Fontaine's DC at the moment, you know. So yeah, music is key too. Like when I'm by myself at home, I can wear what I want. Hey, say what I want. I can't be in another office now. They wouldn't want me there. I'd piss them off too much, right? It gets hot in my house too, so like apartment. So like in the summertime, I'm just wearing board shorts. It's too hot. Yeah. AC's going, it's still hot.
Yeah. Yeah, well, approaching your career the way you have been, which is sort of figuring out your own way, also comes with its negatives in terms of organization, and you're always busy in a way. Like you've got the busy work of sending out emails and making sure things are organized and making sure relationships are continued, where that might not actually represent getting the work done.
Yes.
What's that balance like? Do you think there's something about being busy that takes you away from the work? How do you?
Nah, so like I've got like coping mechanisms to deal with that. So I write lists. So, you know, I sketch ideas, but I write lists, and I have it planned out, a diary, a calendar on the wall. I draw it up and I just put key things in there, cross them off. So then I have a list and I just try to open it up and go through for the week and important stuff. And I put all my projects on the bed, so like pile by pile. So the closest to me is the most important thing is right there. And then second most important, and then stuff back further is not that important. So yeah, I kind of like have an urgency thing that I work through. Yeah, but I just do write lists by hand, write it down. I'm sort of like old school analog kind of guy. I don't have a digital list on my phone. I couldn't stand that. So I keep it all analog calendar, and then just go through and cross it off and try to do one task at once, like one task at once. Don't try to like.
And how does that integrate with the people that you work with? So when you're doing collaborative projects and you're working on these bigger installations and bigger architectural projects, what are the logistics like over there? Does it feel like the logistics of things get in the way of the actual creative production?
No.
How do you look at that?
Well, it's just collabing with the right people that know what they're doing, man.
Yep.
Yeah, so like, I love these art projects because there's no constraints. I've talked about it in my TEDx talk, right? So architecture has so many constraints, but art projects is just how do we build it? Yeah, so like, yeah, the art projects, man, I get so much energy from. Architecture drains me, but art brings it back.
Yeah, your TEDx talk was titled Between Art and Architecture.
Yeah.
What's that between for you? Where do you lie?
Like happiness is in the middle, right? Yeah, between them. I have to do both.
Yeah. So what do you get from each of
I have to do both. I get the technical from the house.
Yeah.
I get the poetry from the art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need both. I can't just do art. It's not technically challenging enough, and I can't just do houses because there's not enough freedom in it. Yeah. So yeah, definitely in between me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like that now, like artists and architects, like Kura Tude, Peta, Eliza Peta, different people. Pack do a lot of art projects too. So yeah, there's people out there that are, Andrew Barry does certain things in the middle. So yeah, I think it's important that you realise that you need both to be happy.
Yeah. Talk to me about that realisation when you did realise that you needed both, and then your design fluency going from when you were 37 to today. So do you think you have gotten closer and better at doing what you truly want to do over the years?
Yeah, I'm the happiest I've ever been right now for my career.
How would you evaluate that progression from when you first started on your own?
You just feel like you feel like you belong more and you're being true to yourself. So like, being true to yourself and where you want to be and what you want to put into the world and where you want to use your energy in that and leave behind. I definitely feel happier now. And it's just been a slow progression from the pyramid schema, plastic baghouse, Vitruvian tunnel, Euclidean. It's been a progressive thing, and I don't know where I'm going to end up. Like, that's the exciting thing. Like, start the PhD, do the PhD 3 years, and then go teach somewhere else maybe for a bit while Billy's young, and then come back and do other stuff. So we'll see. Like, I always like challenging myself and doing other things. Like, I always ask that question: what's next? What's exciting? What's the next challenge? That's what I love. I love that anxiety of like, fuck, what am I going to do with that? What's that new technology? How can I use that to interpret something? So the new artwork could be derived from this new technology, and I'd use the technology as a starting point and learn about it, then turn it into something. So, yeah, like.
Yeah. And what is next? And you've talked to me before about plans to your PhD.
Yeah.
And what are you hoping to find out about yourself through that?
My culture, my Māori heritage through my mum's side, man, through this project for Ngāti Rōnui and Te Reka Waru's legacy, and have something that relates to place. Yeah. So all those other sculptures don't relate to New Zealand or people here. So this is connecting to people and place, which is super important, I think. And so that's super exciting for me and freaky, you know, doing all the research, doing the writing. I can do the build, that's fine, but it's all that. How do I sit and how do I position myself in the context of other architects and artists and Māori history and war, you know, paths and colonisation and relationship with Māori and English, and super exciting and freaky, and some people are going to hate me for it probably, and some people love me for it, but fuck yeah, let's go.
Tell me more. Tell me more. What's the story behind all of it? And how
yeah,
exactly?
So like there was an amazing pa that was designed by Te Reka Waru and built, and it's revolutionary design. It's diamond shaped, 300 by 300 metres, and they don't know where it is. They kind of know where it's about. But one part will be to try to find it, so archaeological. Second part is producing a model of it. So they actually had a model at the Taurangika Marae that they made, and it was actually made of clay and sticks, but someone left it out, got damaged. So I want to design something that is robust and strong from locally sourced tōtara, CNC'd, and then hand-cut, maybe hand-carved. And then I want to build a whare for it so the public can visit it, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, 3-part project, 3 years, and we'll see.
Yeah. And where are you hoping that will take you afterwards?
It'll give me a PhD, which is a ticket to teach anywhere in the world. Yeah. So, as you know, my partner's from Taiwan. We just took our daughter there. So if I could get a job teaching around Taiwan or Japan or Korea and live there for a bit, and then, or go to New York or go to like somewhere else, who knows? But I definitely think I would like to live somewhere else again, and then somewhere new. Yeah. And have that that weekend thought of, oh, where do you want to go this weekend? Hey, I've never been there, let's go there. Yeah. I've been back for 10 years and it's getting a bit like, you know, same old. So another chapter.
Bit of a switch.
Little change, little segue.
Yes.
And see where that leads. And maybe I could do some works based over there. Look at China and Taiwan's relationship, make a work based on that. Or go to the States and look at their relationship with certain countries. I don't know, that excites me to keep responding to where I'm living and research it and make it into some work to share with the public. That excites me.
Yeah. How has being a dad affected the way you show up in the world in your career? Is that something you think about?
Oh God, I'm immersed in it. Wait till you got kids, man. Cool. And being an old dad, 48 with a 2.5-year-old, bro. Mm-hmm. Fucking gnarly, man. Everything, all encompassing, Yeah. Everything. But you get back what you put in, and she's blossoming into the most amazing, funny, cute kid. And amazing. And I love being a dad. But man, I'm so tired. Always tired, man. But all my energy goes to her, Janelle, work, and you guys, right?
So it's packed out.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm full. My life is full.
Yeah.
I don't surf anymore. I hardly surf, man. I used to surf all the time, bro.
Yeah.
And all my mates still surfing, no kids, no partner, and yeah, so that's been the adjustment. So hopefully I'll get back my surfing, but I'm getting older and less fit, and you know what I mean? But surfing was such a massive part of my life, massive, right up to 3 years ago. I had a good run for 30 years, surfing all the time.
No shark bites, so that's good.
Shark, I saw a shark at Muriwai.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of reef cuts.
Yeah.
I got fucked up a lot. Surfed all around the world, Indo and Morocco and Portugal, Spain, Mexico, Aussie. Used to surf Maruba every morning, 9 o'clock, go surfing and then go back and do work. You know, after I left Renatos, I lost so much good surf working for Renatos. I only had daylight savings, could surf. I wasn't a morning person, could surf at night. But then the weekends, I just surf, you know, a lot of times it goes onshore and you'd surf on the weekend and it was good all week, and, you know, that's why it's starting to come back and teach, you know, or start my own practice. I got so many good waves. And I had the perfect balance.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a very beautiful switch, though, at the same time, losing surfing, but your life is, I guess you could see it as a life of service to your family, to the students, and to the ideas that you're chasing in your personal.
Yeah, my career, it's more focused on my career now. Like, you know, I used to, and my kid, and Billy. So like, but hopefully I'll get it back. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But, you know, I love being a dad, and I learned so much from Billy. And what can I teach you? You know, what were your parents like? How did they put it? What's your relationship with your parents? How much did they teach you? How much time did they spend with you? Do you love them? Or, you know, like, you know, that whole thing is so cool, man. Like, I love being a parent.
Yeah, I saw a beautiful image on a news article of your ego tower, and then Billy's version of hers.
Yes.
I think it was called the Ego-less tower, made with Lego bricks.
Yeah, like Billy's tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, for in the Sunday Star Times. Yeah, just making towers with her, bro. Like, she looks at the sky tower at our balcony and goes, Billy's tower. Dude, like, she's going to be obsessed with towers, and she's only 2.
Yeah.
I did that Towers of Culture paper. You know, like, yeah, it's so interesting. Like, man, what's she going to do? Like, we do modelling with clay. We do drawings all the time. We do all sorts of creative little things before daycare. So yeah, it's so cool, man, having a kid. I hope you get to have a kid one day and experience it, eh?
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And one thing I've appreciated very much about all of your work is your ability to, especially in your live pieces of art, is your ability to draw groups together and get them to do things.
Yeah.
So the first time I noticed this was 2023, and it was the City of Dreams, the skyscraper construction. And that was, I believe, in the months prior, you had collected things like toilet rolls and spare supplies from students in the community. And then this day shows up where me and my friends, very young at that time, we were just exhibiting a model that we'd made over the last few weeks at Design. But then you pulled this group of maybe like 300 people through the course of the night, and you got them constructing dozens of beautiful towers. How do you do that? What's the magic of bringing people together?
I just bringing people together over the same thing, and then the idea of craft and sitting together and making stuff, and see people come together, different cultures. Your kids with spray cans, man. Mum and Dad, look at use a spray can, and so fun. And then I ran it at the library and did that for 3 days, and inside and meeting the homeless people that go to the library every day. Just amazing to connect with in the public sphere. You know, like it's so good just to mix with different people, like just to do archi or art. Like, it's so cool to do public work and see public enjoy things and how happy it makes them, and think about community and bigger fields, like just kind of go wider and wider and wider, and just see how people respond. And yeah,
so the setup for something like that, which is drawing people together, seems a lot different from, let's say, a higher budget, more sleek setup like the Euclidean Tower or the Vitruvian Man, and that progression of works. What are those common threads that join the book?
The ad hoc, just making, creativity and making, but the ad hoc, there's beauty in just recycled materials. And, you know, that show we're doing in Devonport, it's just cardboard, 4 cubic meters of cardboard, a shitload of scissors and scribing boards and paint, maybe wattle paint if we can get them on board, or house paint. And just the idea that design doesn't have to be expensive, right? Yeah, so, and there's beauty in the everyday object.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend $400 on a model and all that stuff, Like, I want to teach this paper big, bar and steel, and you cannot buy anything new in your whole design paper. No new paper, no new materials, so find stuff and make. That'd be a great paper.
It'd be a great progression to see how those ideas develop into someone's thesis, if that's possible. And it seems like a lot of the projects of yours, at least to me, are driven by this idea of chasing delight, in a way, like what's most delightful. And so the definition of creativity that I subscribe to is, so it's one by Andrew Huberman, who's a professor in biology, but he's got a podcast on the internet. And the way he describes creativity is the novel combination of existing rules that reveals something true about the world to you. So it's either of utility in a practical way, or it reveals a truth about the world to you that delights, but you don't know exactly what those rules are. You just know that it delights you and brings joy. And the project of yours that reminds me the most of is the one in 2016 with, it was called the Great Pyramid Scheme.
Yeah.
The Great Pyramid Scheme.
Yeah, schema, man. Yeah.
So that was one of the earlier works, right?
Yes.
With the whole pyramid progression. That was the one that got the triangle series started off?
Yeah, man.
Am I right?
Yeah, and I think it had the most gravitas. The one of the cheapest ones to do with the most impact. And I that's why it won a gold pin, because I think it was so different. And but yeah, I reckon, so that's always the challenge, is how to do the most with less. Yeah. And how do you connect with people, and how do you, the easiest way to connect, and how do you tell the truth, and how do you show people certain ways you think, Yeah. And put my piece out to the world and see what comes back. Yeah.
Tell me more. How do you think about those topics?
Well, I just think about things that people think but don't say, or what's the biggest issues people have with things, or what are the biggest issues I care about, like racism, and how to combat that, or how to show, how to show different views on racism, how stupid it is, or how you might be just hate that race because of one person you meet, but there's 500 that are amazing. So how do you show that in an installation or design? So that's one thing. Or effects of capitalism, or war, how stupid war is, or if Putin was there and Netanyahu were there, why aren't they fighting their own war? So that this new one, spheres of influence, that shows you that spheres of influence and who should be running the states. Why isn't Chomsky there? Why isn't Bernie Sanders there? Why have we got this Trump guy? Why do we have these people running this? And who's their agenda? What's their relationship? What's their ulterior motive? So, I want to delve more into politics for me, and bigger issues and future projects. And that's what gets me excited, is what's the next one? Finish one and then you're on to the next. And that's what gets me out of bed. It's like, I don't want to repeat the same thing and do that and become formulaic. I want to do something new.
Yeah, it's about iteration, not just repetition for you.
Yeah, of course, man. What are they? Yeah, so you don't want to keep repeating the same thing, flogging a dead horse.
No. Rick Rubin's got this beautiful idea about truly delightful creative acts as being ones where the artist is introspective and chases what brings delight to them the most, as opposed to thinking about their audience and self-censoring through the process of creativity. And he's a music producer, but he describes this in writers, for example, or even musicians, which is when you are composing a piece of written work or music, and you think about, this might not sound like the best pop lick, or this sort of drum lick or guitar kick in isn't the greatest. It devoids the art of the truth. The art isn't done for the sake of art anymore. It's done for publication or money, or appearing a certain way in front of people. And it seems like those projects, even though they delve into areas which are controversial and you're not supposed to talk about, and politics and gender, racism, whatever they are, those taboo topics, even the mere act of going into them, because they are what truly matter to you, is almost like a devotion to saying, I'm going to chase what I value.
Yeah, that's a key thing, is being true to yourself and standing up for your rights. Yeah, look at Fontaine's DC doing the Brit Awards saying Free Palestine. Look at how many people who are tied in with Hollywood and celebrity who aren't advocating for, Palestinians getting destroyed daily. They can't get out of it. It's genocide. Yeah, so standing up for what's truthful and real, and looking at the consequences of it. So important in this modern day to stand up for shit you believe in. It's so important. As architects, as activists, it's important that we all stand up for what we believe in, man.
What are some of the hidden lessons that you've learned today? The lessons that you weren't expecting to come your way, but have kind of gripped you and shocked you?
I reckon what I'm interested in doing next is putting myself on the line more. Yeah, standing up for what I believe in just normal conversations, or what I'm going to produce as new artworks. Just stuff it, man. But lose those friends for telling the truth. Stand up for what you believe in, man. Maybe other people might change their mind, you know. So, yeah, just being more honest and as you get older.
Yeah, you're creating that community around you by almost self-selection, which is you've got this kind of circle, this aura that you are who you say you are, and if you don't agree with, if people don't agree with who you are, then all good, stay away. But if they do, then you've suddenly got this community of people around you that are like, cool, we are the shit together.
Yeah, man, I reckon, and just seeing how many students like get on board and are waiting for someone to put their hand up and say, hey, I actually agree too. I agree. And just feeling part of a family, bigger family, and of like-minded people that feel like togetherness. It's such a great feeling when you feel part of something bigger than yourself. As you know, at the school, you know how it works, eh? Such a great school, and then the graduates from the school all see each other, and you know, just an amazing place, man, that doesn't get enough cred.
Yeah. Has that been the case in professional practice for you as well, this feeling of interconnectivity?
Yeah, because I use the same people all the time, and that's a big family, you know, all my consultants and that. But I talking to you before about, like, I go to Daily Bread and I know everyone there. I go to Grannon Park, I know everyone there. I used to go up Mangafo and see Amanda Harkness there. I go across the road, see my coffee man. I keep it small and simple. I love that.
Yeah.
Keep it tight.
What about your move overseas when you did those years in London and Sydney?
Yeah, I had great friends in London. We'd partied and travelled. It was so good. Same in Sydney, great bunch of mates and that. So yeah, who knows what the next one is. That's the exciting part about doing another chapter. I see them as chapters, like chapters.
Yeah.
When I did my PhD, I was going to do it like autographical ethnology and have a chapter on each year of my life and what I learnt from it and things like that. I still might do it, who knows, but I'm only for chapter 48. What's 49, 50, 51 going to have? 60, 70, 80, 90.
It's a life's work.
Yeah, man, I see everything is like, you know, I said this a few times, and it's quite, you know, on my grave I'll just have mattliggins.com, and I'll pay for it for another 500 years. Hey, and have all my projects on there. And what will be my last project? Life and death. That, you know, who knows?
Yeah, it's not just a story you tell about the projects, but it's a story about the development of them. And
yeah, all of them is a record of my process. I tell everyone everything's process. It just stops at a certain time. But if you don't enjoy the process, what are you doing?
Yeah. So is the process the destination?
There's no destination unknown, like no direction home, like Bob Dylan. But the idea is you don't know where you're going to go, but that doesn't matter. But the idea is you just enjoy it, and if you not enjoying it, you turn that ship, go somewhere else. You're driving the ship. You have to choose where you want to go, and you know it changes, and you've got to be true to yourself to where you're going to end up.
Yeah. So your path, the one that you've taken, is very different and very unique to what a lot of professionals will do, at least in New Zealand. There's not a lot of people around who've been as courageous or have had the inkling to go down on your own. Yeah. What have some of the biggest challenges been, and what were some of those unexpected
financial security.
Yeah.
Definitely financial security,
Yeah, how have you navigated that?
I navigated it by following my passion and paths, but like I'm not a multi-millionaire. If I did high and res, I'd be rich. But I don't.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't make me happy.
The story of this is a lot more important to you than...
Yeah, being true to yourself, man. Yeah. Like, high and res, man, you can make so much money, dude. But it didn't feel right. Just always talking with rich people about what they got and cars and artworks and couches and this and that, and I don't know, it wasn't me, man. But it suits certain people. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So in effect, today's been about a conversation of how do you pull on that thread to be true to yourself.
Always, man. Like, you know, you feel happy when you lie down at night and you're like, yes, I'm trying to be as I am. And you know when you're going down the wrong path and you lie in bed going, fuck yeah, I don't want to go in that place or be that person, or I regret doing this, I shouldn't have done that. But you learn from it. No one's perfect. You learn from your mistakes and you try to just be better each day.
Yeah. That sounds like a great place to call it a day. Matt, where can people find more about you and learn about the rest of the story?
Sure. So definitely Instagram, Matt Liggins, or just mattliggins.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you very much,
man.
Matt.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.